Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Valley, joined alongside Logan Plant. How are you feeling, Logan?
I'm feeling great, Kevin. It's a big week. It's a big week for the show, big week for Sonic fans. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, there's a lot to get to. We've got some really exciting announcements from Indie Showcase,
Oh my
something that
god.
we've been waiting for so long that we have mentioned many times on this show.
Yeah.
But before we get into that and some other stuff, we got to talk about Sonic.
It's
Sonic
crazy these
Frontiers
two
is
things
out.
happened in the same week, by
Yeah,
the way,
right? The
because
two
the
things we've
game,
talked about like the most in the
yeah,
last year.
Sports Story and Sonic Frontiers, we talk about like every single week, and now we got a
Now we will
release month for
continue.
Sports Story and Sonic.
Now
Yeah.
we'll talk about them at the same time. Yeah. Sonic Frontiers, you've been playing a bunch of it. You're almost done.
Yep.
Before we get into the nitty gritty of the game, I have to ask, is it good?
It is very good. It is very, very good. Right now on like Metacritic, it's sitting at a 72. I think that's really fair for like a general critic's perspective. But if you're a Sonic fan, I think you're just gonna absolutely love this game. Like I think it is the game long-suffering Sonic fans have been waiting for. It is super rough around the edges. Like there's a lot of issues in it. I'm not going to deny that. Like I love this game so much, but there's a lot of issues. But they've been setting this up as like the template for what the next era of Sonic's going to be like. And right off the bat, I'll just say, sign me up for that because I love the formula. Sonic has translated to an open world ish type game a lot better than I thought he was going to. Like it feels really, really good. The gameplay loop is great. There's a lot really good here. The combat is better than I thought it was going to be. I thought that was going to get really old really fast. I really like the combat. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, for a first outing, this is kind of what we said on the show too, Kev. It was I kind of likened it to like Pokemon Legends Arceus. So I'm
Right.
like, it's an awesome proof of concept, rough around the edges. Sonic is even rougher around the edges. It is
Oh,
extremely broken in parts, like not like gameplay wise, but like mechanical wise. We'll talk about it, but
like a infinite Knuckles jump or
not that bad. Not from a gameplay perspective. The main thing that's broken is the collectible economy, which I'll get into
oh
in a little
boy.
bit. It is absolutely broken, but what's here is really, really good. I'm excited for future entries of this. The main thing I've been thinking this week is this is the 5-year anniversary of Sonic Forces. Sonic Forces came out this week in 2017. Like the games came out one day apart from each other, and that is like the safest, most cookie cutter, bland, like uninteresting, unoriginal Sonic game that functions right. Like it runs fine, looks fine. Sonic Frontiers is like the most ambitious game from a major publisher I've played in a really long time. Like they try some crazy stuff with the formula, turn it on its head. Not all of it works. Some of their ideas are bad, and I hope they don't come back. But some of their ideas are really, really good. And I would rather have a very ambitious game that falters at points than just the bland mess of Sonic Forces. So yeah, I'm super happy with Frontiers. It's like remember when Forces came out and we are like they took the last 4 years to make this. You can tell they've taken the last 5 years to make Frontiers. Like it's a
Yeah.
huge game. It is super ambitious, like I've been saying. Yeah, so let's get into it. Where do you want to start, Kev?
All right. I think my biggest question, especially coming from some of those trailers that we saw in regards to the open world, that was, I think, one of the biggest concerns when this thing was shown off for the first time was
Yeah.
how is this going to translate? Was it going to be interesting exploring these areas and doing these little challenges and things that they have set up in the area?
Mhm.
How does it work in the open world? How does it feel to control Sonic in this open world? Is there enough interesting things to do to justify the open world? How does it all come together?
Sonic feels really great. That is I kind of knew within 5 minutes. I've been feeling this way the last couple of weeks. I'm like, I'll know within 5 minutes of starting this game if I'm going to like it or not, because it really all comes down to how Sonic moves in the open world, and he moves great. Like he moves really, really well. They've made a lot of tweaks. He doesn't do a homing attack whenever you want anymore. You know, in the other games, like you tap the jump button twice and he jumps and then he rushes forward in the homing attack. Now he has a double jump, similar a little
Okay.
bit to Sonic Forces, and then only when there's an automatic lock-on cursor on screen can you homing attack onto something. So that's a big change right away. But he moves really great. He has a normal running speed if you're just moving him with the control stick, and then if you hold down the right trigger, he goes into a sprint, which you might remember, Kev, is the exact same setup they tried in Sonic Lost World, where he would walk, and
Right.
then
There
when you
was a
held down
dash button in
ZR, he
there,
would
wasn't
dash.
there? Yeah.
But it's so much better here because his walk is about as fast as his run was in that game, and his run is really, really fast. And the way that there's 5 islands in the game. I've been to all 5. 4 of them are very well suited to Sonic running around. One of them has a little too much elevation. It's a little janky at times, but it does really feel like they constructed these areas with this character in mind, which is another big thing we talked about. Like, is it going to feel like you just plop Sonic into like a Super Mario Odyssey kingdom, or is it going to feel like you tailored this land to Sonic? And they absolutely tailored it to him. Huge fields to sprint through, constantly little mini levels all around. Like, you'll just see a spring and you'll jump on this spring. It'll launch up. The camera will seamlessly turn into a 2D side scroll, like in some of the 3D Sonic game levels. And then it's like you go on some springs, you go on some rails, you homing attack some enemies, you get to the end and you get a little collectible. And then it just launches you back into the open world. And it's designed in a really smart way that usually, like, the way the camera pans back from 2D to 3D, your eye is then drawn to the next little mini platforming segment to go do. So you're constantly moving. The puzzles, like we saw in that initial gameplay, are usually really simple. They show literally the tutorial ones. Like, they get better. They're never very hard. I have never failed one of these challenges. But for example, there's like the one where you have to walk on all the flashing platforms and clear them all.
Yeah, right.
Like, that recurs probably like 10 times, but it gets more complicated. And sometimes they attach a timer to it. And there's some where you have to basically hit a punching bag and deal enough damage within a time limit. There's some where these rings appear and you have to like homing attack onto this soccer ball basically and shoot it through the rings. And that one's pretty good because you have to kind of mess with your angle and like that. But they're not super like brain teasers, but they're so quick that then you're off to the next thing. And that's really this game's thing. You do something and you're off to the next thing. And you're always moving on. There is that sense of momentum and like, okay, I did this, I got this collectible, I'm ready to move on. And completing these challenges unlocks a little bit of an area on the map. And the really cool thing it does, Kev, is say there's puzzle 1 and puzzle 2. When you complete both of them, a rail appears connecting the two of them. And then you complete puzzle 3 and a rail appears connecting puzzle 2 and 3. So you're basically creating this fast travel around this entire open zone map.
Okay.
And it works super well and is really cool because sometimes for story reasons, you need to go back to an area you were in. And there's not much automatic fast travel. So like you just hop on basically this rail system you have built by solving these puzzles to get back there. And it's really cool use of the world and use of the rail systems.
Well, that's fun that you actually get to create this yourself rather than just kind of you're just given these like waypoints to go to if you have to if you have to craft the system yourself. And on the puzzles, a lot of those don't necessarily sound like puzzles. They sound more like mini games, which I mean,
they're
which
fine.
is fine.
Yeah.
Like they don't really sound like they're supposed to be, like brain scratching puzzles or something like that. Just kind of, oh, here's a mini game with a different thing to do, and then you do them. Which
a lot of the time I kept waiting for it to get harder, and then it gets a little bit harder, but you'll never be stumped. It's always like, hey, just got to kind of check the boxes to unlock this part of the map. But in some Sonic games, the mundane things it makes you do take forever, and it's like, oh my god. But in this, it's like 20 seconds. So even though it's not the most interesting thing the game has to offer, it's over so quickly and you get a collectible and you get the piece of the map open and you get the rails built, that it always feels rewarding, even if the gameplay itself in those sections isn't super compelling.
Did the statue thing get any more complicated?
That turning the statue, it did. That's actually one of the more complicated puzzles in the game.
Well, that's good because the initial one they showed was not.
Yeah, there's like a light-based puzzle where you have like 4 different statues you're operating, and you have to line them up to like reflect the light off these mirrors in this huge field area. And it's actually the puzzle I spent the most time on. So yeah, just like lining the puzzle up. That's literally the first thing you do in this open world. You get in, and it's like that's the first puzzle you do is turn that statue to line it up to open the door, which basically is like the Breath of the Wild moment, like leaving the Great Plateau when that door opens. And it's like, why did you show that? Like, I've played this game. I can't believe the gameplay they picked to show in that initial reveal that Sega picked to show, because it did not do this game justice at all.
Yeah, that was awful. That it was like they were doing damage control after that, which is hilarious because they handpicked that. Like, please show this, and it's like, no, this is not. Yeah, this is not what you should have shown.
Yeah.
Now, going beyond the open world, we also saw a bit of the the cyberspace levels, they're a little bit coy on them. It seemed they didn't show a ton of those off. It was the focus is on the open world. How did those all come together, both by themselves and being paired with this open world?
It's a very mixed bag on these traditional levels. Honestly, like, I wanted to say this at the top. The amount of inspirations in Sonic Frontiers, it's like I can think of like 10 AAA games that Sonic Frontiers has some little influence of. It has it a lot. Honestly, the islands feel like Super Mario Odyssey Kingdoms in their design. Like, there's just collectibles everywhere. You don't have to do them all, but you have to do a good number of them to progress. Really cool ideas there. The cyberspace levels to me feel like Breath of the Wild shrines, where it's like, these aren't the dungeons you wanted. They're close. They're like echoes of it, but they don't really give you that same feeling as like running through a level in Sonic Generations. And there are some that are better than others. Some are like Sonic Forces, are one linear path and take 50 seconds to complete. Others have crazy wide branching paths and take like 3.5 minutes to complete. So you never really know what you're going to get. It's not the focus of the game. The open world absolutely is. So it's exactly how I feel like with Zelda. Like, maybe in a sequel, those can get a little bit more love. But there are some really cool levels in there that are way better than what Forces has to offer, but don't hit the highs of like a Generations.
Yeah. How much of the game are those levels, would you think?
Not much. So I've played for 18 hours and I'm on the final island. I think that I'll probably have like 4 hours on this island before I beat the game. And I'm taking my time. The time to beat on this thing is like 16 hours, but I'm kind of 100%.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically the gameplay loop is this. It's you're dropped into this open world. You need to find the Chaos Emeralds in each island is the goal. You need to get all 7 Chaos Emeralds. To get the Chaos Emeralds, you need keys. They're called vault keys. You get the vault keys from the cyberspace levels. But to unlock the cyberspace levels, you need gears, which you get from the bosses. So it's a lot there. It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty, you get it. So you fight the big guardians is what they're called on the map. They drop a gear. Once you get 1 or 2 gears, you find a cyberspace portal. You go in there, you complete the level, you get keys. Once you have enough keys, you go get a Chaos Emerald. Rinse and repeat on each island. And there's little differences on each island. But the cyberspace levels aren't much of it. They do have 4 missions they want you to do. They want you to like get all the red rings, get the S time clear, and finish with a certain amount of rings. So there is some replayability in there. I usually don't complete them all the objectives on a first go through. So I'm kind of waiting until the end to go back and redo them. But so it's really not, the open world is the focus. I'd say probably 15 to 20% of the game you'll spend in the cyberspace levels.
Okay.
That might be a little generous. Yeah. But they're fun. There's some cool ones in there.
How does he feel in those levels as compared to the open world?
Better than Forces, because Forces you have like no control of it.
Yeah, it was just automatic.
A really interesting thing that this game has done is it has nerfed the boost. The boost, you can't boost through enemies to kill them anymore. It's not just like hit boost,
Forces where the game ends.
Yeah.
When you had like the team ability or whatever with your partner, where you didn't even have to press the button and it'll do it anyways. And
I played some Forces before this game came out just to remind myself, and wow, it was bad. But so yeah, the boost isn't as fast either as it is in like Unleashed or Generations. It's a lot slower. Honestly, the platforming in the cyberspace levels feels the closest to Sonic Colors, where it is a little bit more puzzle based, a little bit more precision based, but it's dialed back the required precision a bit that it feels better than Colors did. Because our problem with Colors was it is really slow paced sometimes in these levels. Yeah. And like you're waiting for the platform to arrive. But this, it keeps you moving, but you have to be pretty careful. So I didn't like it at first. I also think that the first island cyberspace levels aren't very good, and they get more complicated as the islands go on. But now I'm a fan of it. I think that they work really well, and there's some really good ones. The biggest disappointment is that the 4 biomes that they showed in the pre-release coverage, Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary, and that city that they've shown, those are the only 4 biomes in the cyberspace levels in the entire game. They all look like that. And it's really disappointing. And so basically, there's only for a 5th one to show up. That's it.
New area because the rest are returning.
Yep. And it's the 3 they always do. So that is a disappointment for me. I voiced on the show time and time again how tired I am of Green Hill Zone. But I got over it eventually. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I know this now, and I'll just deal with it and focus on the level design. And the level design is largely very good. And There were some surprises in the later cyberspace levels that I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect him to throw in that mechanic randomly in here. I won't say what it is, but there's some cool stuff in there. We were texting about the game a little bit, and I was really hard on the cyberspace levels. Since then, I've played a lot more of the game, and they're good. Yeah, I'm happy with them. They're not Generations level. I don't think anything ever will be again. I played those 9 levels over the weekend, and it's like, that's just like peak Sonic to me. So I don't think anything will ever touch those, but these are a lot better than what we had in Forces. And there's 27 of them, which is how much there was in Forces.
Which is really sad.
Yeah. So they're good.
Are they basically all 3D, or do they do what 3D Sonic does a lot and swap it to 2D for?
I would say over half of them are 2D. More of them are 2D than 3D. Mm-hmm. Right. And I usually don't like the 2D sections as much, but I think that's because the boost usually doesn't work very well in those 2D sections. But with the lesser focus on boost and more on platforming, the 2D sections are actually really, really fun. So I was a little disappointed at first, but I'm happy with it now.
I mean, it probably helps that the rest of the game is there, because if you have that set up in a normal 3D Sonic game, it's like, well, half the game's not even 3D Sonic.
Yeah.
But in this case, you have this open world, and that's about as 3D Sonic as you can get. You know, completely free roaming open world.
Yeah.
Which I would think helps. I'm curious about these collectibles. So now we've talked about how the open world and the cyberspace levels kind of connect with each other. And you touched on them a little bit, how it all kind of connects with these collectibles and how you unlock things. Sounded like it doesn't work particularly well. What is going on with these collectibles?
It's really, really broken in a lot of ways. So I've been thinking about this a lot today in my head about how to break this down to make it sound clear. And really there's 2 sides to the collectibles. There are the progression collectibles, which we talked about. You need the gears to get into cyberspace, which give you the keys to get you the emeralds, right? That's a pretty simple linear path. The other story collectible are these things called memory tokens. And each island has their own memory token. The first island, you're rescuing Amy. You rescue other friends on the other islands. So it's like Amy's hearts. You're collecting Amy's hearts. And you know how I mentioned that all over the world, there's just these little platforming segments that you can just hop into and hop out of? At the end of each one of those, if you do it successfully, you'll get a memory token. There are dozens of other ways to get them. Enemies will drop them. You get those everywhere. They're very plentiful. So those are the story ones. Those aren't that broken. The memory tokens are a little broken, but it's fine. You need those to basically start cutscenes. Like a lot of the story progression, like in the top right, you'll have your main objective, and it'll be like, talk to Amy. But to talk to Amy, you need like 30 memory tokens. So it's basically making it so you can't beeline from conversation to conversation to progress. You have to play the open world along the way. It works well. That's all good. That's all well and good.
Is there like a set amount in each of these areas? Like, is there like a checklist and like there is, 100 in this area, or is it just
they appear on the map? The ones that are a part of the platforming puzzles appear on the map and go away when you get them and never come back. Like those ones don't respawn, but there's really a limitless amount of them because enemies do drop them. And the really broken part, which I'm not going to bring up yet, also drops them a lot.
Okay, cool.
And sometimes there's little treasure chest icons around the map that you can go to and do a move on, and then they'll spawn a random collectible. More often than not, it's those. There's also rings, right? Just normal rings, which are life. At the start of the game, Sonic can hold up to 400 rings, and each enemy does a different amount of damage. So like a grunt will do like 60 rings, but a boss will do like 250 rings. So that works well.
So that's like, that's like
I really like how they did it.
System.
Yeah.
Is it easy to recollect those, or are they just?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, it only drops like 30 around you. Like if you lose 200, it only drops like 30. So you can't get them all.
All right. Yeah.
But the broken part also helps you get rings. But I gotta get through these other collectibles.
Okay.
Then there's the upgrade collectibles. There are skill points for Sonic's skill tree, which unlocks new moves in combat. There are seeds, 2 types of seeds. There are blue seeds and red seeds. Blue seeds upgrade your defense. Red seeds upgrade your offense. You start at level 1, and your max is level 99 for the entire game. So you can level up 99. And then there are the Cocos, which are the little stone dudes, the little cute Korok ripoffs. You need to collect, very much like Breath of the Wild, you need to collect a bunch of them, bring them to the Elder Coco, and he will upgrade either Sonic's speed or his ring capacity. So you start with able to carry 400, you can max out at 999. Then
do you get all of these from like combat encounters again? Or are they scattered in the world?
The Cocos are just hanging out. They're just like,
okay, yeah.
You make it to the top of a pillar. There's like 3 sitting up there, and you just grab them. And
seeds,
then there's purple coins. The seeds, you get from every time you complete one of the puzzles, the ones that unlocks you on the map. And gives you the rails. It also spawns a seed, and it's random if it's red or blue. So that's the main way to get them.
All right.
But enemies will randomly drop them. The treasure chests will sometimes have them. And then the last collectible is purple coins. Very much like Odyssey. They pick the same color.
On there? We got the Koroks of purple coins. They're just taking.
I guess it's also because it's for Big the Cat, and he's purple, so maybe that's why. It's because the Big's fishing mini game, you take purple coins to him, and you have to spend 1 coin for every time you cast the line. And that's where things start to fall apart. Okay. So that's a lot, right? That's a ton of collectibles.
There's a lot going on.
Sonic has a new ability called Psyloop. We've seen this. It's where you trace the circle, Pokemon Ranger style, around the enemies.
Ranger.
When you're just in the open world, you can do that infinite times in a row. And when you're not surrounding an enemy, it's like use Psyloop in the open world to see if you might get some rings. And the way the tutorial phrases it is like, there's a chance you'll get some rings. It gives you rings every time. Like, seriously. And you can just sit there, run in a circle and hold triangle and let go of it for hours, and it will never stop spawning. It gives you rings. It gives you the seeds for defense and offense. It gives you keys. It gives you the token. It gives you everything.
Wait, so you could max it out like instantly? Max out your stats and stuff?
It would take a long time because they don't drop them a lot, but yeah, you could just sit there if you wanted to. And probably after like 3 hours of just doing that, you could max out your stats. It's ridiculous. But not only that, Big's fishing minigame, when you catch fish, you earn tokens. And Big's like, wow, that's a nice fish. Here's a token. Then he has a shop where you redeem your tokens. The main thing you can redeem it for is Eggman audio logs, and there's 25 of them. And it provides lore to what's Eggman doing right now. And they're really interesting. They're really good, actually. But then once you've bought all 25 of those, you can buy Cocos and seeds. And it's like, oh, but that's okay because the purple coins aren't that plentiful. They're extremely plentiful because there's another mechanic called Starfall, which is the equivalent thing, Breath of the Wild Blood Moon. It resets all the enemies in the world. But instead of just being a cutscene and then you're back in the normal world, there's a 2-minute interval where there's these star chunks on the ground. You pick them up. There's a slot machine running on the top of your screen. And it's like, when the 3 symbols match up, you'll get some purple coins. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. Another way to get some purple coins. The first time I did Starfall, it gave me 400 purple coins. So I could go and cast the fishing line 400 times.
How many times have you even gotten through that many? Like, how many times have you fished with Big?
I now have like 1,200 purple coins from how many times Starfall has happened. So it made it like collecting purple coins in the overworld is pointless because the Starfall thing
just wait for Starfall.
Hundreds. Yeah, it's hilarious. So here's kind of where I've kind of settled on this. It's bad, right? It is broken. You can max yourself out so fast. You don't need to do a lot of the things the open world wants you to do because of the main exploits of fishing and the Psyloop. But that's not fun. It's not a fun way to play the game. The actual open world itself is fun. It's what I want to be spending my time with. So I didn't take advantage of these things very much. I don't spam the Psyloop because it's really stupid. And most of the time you just get rings. There's like a chance you get something else. But it is absolutely broken. It is super broken.
I could see that being detrimental too, because even if doing the things in the open world is fun and you enjoy it, if you feel like you're not getting properly rewarded because you can just get the same things from doing very negligible tasks or just having things show up, I feel like that could detract from these experiences because also, it could be fun to do it, but you do want to get rewarded for doing it as well.
I don't think you can get the portals or the gears and the keys from the Psyloop, but you can buy those from fishing. So there is a way to kind of circumvent everything. But so it is a little bit broken in that way. And then the skill tree, I maxed out the skill tree like halfway into the game. And now Sonic he's still accruing skill points by like combat. And there's like little skill pieces, which is another collectible you can get from the Psyloop. They're like, there's like Yeah, it's
So
crazy.
wait, so you get skill points and there's skill pieces. Those are skill pieces just bigger
Skill pieces
points,
add
or
up to skill points. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
the pieces of
Mhm.
the point. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's like crown pieces in Fall Guys. Like you get enough and it builds to a crown. You get enough skill pieces, it builds to a skill point. I have completed my skill tree, and I'm like, in the bottom right corner of the screen of the UI when I'm just running around, it's like, you have 75 skill points. There's nothing to spend them on for the rest of the game. The number's just still climbing. And it's like, why is that
It makes
still
you think
there?
that you'll possibly have to use it again. Like, oh, I'll unlock
Yeah.
something and a
Yeah.
new
Because I thought there
branch
was
of the
supposed
tree
to
will
be
open.
a supersonic skill tree, but there's not. He has the moves he has. But I thought I saw that maybe that was one of the rumors that wasn't true, that he was supposed to have a skill tree. He does not. But it's just hilarious. Like, I mean, props to them for trying all this stuff. It's pretty broken. Like, I think this is an economy that will be heavily refined in the next iteration of this.
Do you think some of
But
this will even be refined in patches?
maybe,
I
like
would
maybe they
I
remove
would
the
think
side
that
loop
the
thing.
drops
Yeah.
on that should be scaled back pretty far.
Yeah, absolutely. And Starfall should be nerfed a little bit. It's crazy OP right now. How many purple coins? It makes the purple coins hidden in the overworld. And granted, they're hidden in some pretty nice spots. Like, you have to be really good at platforming to get to some of these purple coins.
But you
They don't matter.
don't.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'll say on kind of the collectible economy is there's two Cocos that you go and talk to redeem these things. There's Elder Coco and Hermit Coco. You go to the Hermit to turn in your seeds, and then he boosts your offensive defense. You go to the Elder to return the children to him, and he boosts your ring capacity and top speed. When you go to the Hermit, he's just like, oh, I will turn all your seeds into levels. Okay, and then there's a cutscene where you hand them all to him, and it's like, oh wow, you turned in a ton of seeds. Your attack just jumped from level 10 to level 21.
Okay.
But then you go to the Elder, and you have to manually do every interaction for one level. And this goes from 1 to 99. So you go up to him. Say you have 100 baby Cocos you want to turn in. It costs 12 per, so you can do like 9 of them in that run. You go up to him and he's like, would you like to increase something? And then it's like, increase ring or increase speed, because you get a pick. You can do either.
Yeah.
And it's like, increase ring. And then a little like 3-second cutscene plays. And it's like, oh, and then it's like, speed increased. Would you like to do it again? And then you click yes. And then you watch the cutscene again. And it takes like a really long time, because 2 of the trophies, I'm going to platinum this game. 2 of the trophies are max out speed and rings. And it's like, I'm going to have to sit through that cutscene 100 more times because I need to level these things up to 99. And it's like, that needs to be fixed. It's like crafting in Animal Crossing, where
there's no slider or something where you can add the amount that you want. Be like, do you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you can?
I can do 10 right now. Just let me do all 10, please.
And it's like, they're like, oh, well, you have 2 things to choose from. We don't want you to like dump it all into one, but you could just be like, I want 5 in this one, done. Go to the next one. I want 3 in this one. I've used them all.
Yeah. So that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Yeah, but that's the bad. The collectible economy is broken, but it's really not a big deal. It's just like, if you were just, it's another reason I can see the score being what it is, right? On Metacritic, it's at a 70. If you're going into this as a reviewer who's not a rabid Sonic fan like me, you're like, God, this is just terrible. Like, compared to any AAA game, does not work well. But for me, my lens, I'm like, this is the first time they're attempting this, right? Like, it's not that bad. It's all right. So yeah, but that's absolutely wrecked. Yeah, that's the collectible economy, Kev.
Fun. I want to talk about combat, but before that, I guess partly on these collectibles and upgrading things in that system where you can just upgrade things way quicker than possibly they intended. Has that made the combat too easy? Like, does it break the combat in any way if you're significantly overpowered before they maybe thought you were going to be?
Well, I didn't really do it. I think it could, but the cool thing about combat, and why I am such a big fan of it, is that it's not about really how strong you are or button mashing. It's about using the right move in Sonic's toolkit to expose each certain enemy. Like, it works really well in that way. Combat is really broken in one hilarious way I'm going to talk about. It's so funny. But like, a lot of these bosses that are in the overworld, it's like, okay, for this one, you're going to want to use the stomp attack because it's this bird that's flying and you have to like maneuver around the geography to get on top of this thing and then stomp it. And it's like a one-hit kill. Or there's this one really cool enemy in the second island that the annoying part is sometimes your camera auto locks onto these enemies, even when you don't want to fight them. You're just blistering by, and then the camera's like, nope, you're going to fight this thing now. But basically, this enemy flies like 2 stories in the air, and then it sends out these 16 drones, and 4 of them are bombs, and 12 of them you can homing attack on. So you have to look at it, pick your path, then homing attack to the top like a staircase, and then homing attack it, and then it dies. So it's not really about your strength a lot of the time. In some of the boss fights it is, but with these just grunts, it's like, okay, how does this one die? Some put a shield on themselves. You have to do the side loop around them and then homing attack them. Like, it's actually really fun. It feels good. They have these cool like kind of action cutscenes that like zoom in on Sonic as he's doing the move, kind of like Spider-Man does. And honestly, it feels a lot like Spider-Man in a lot of ways. So yeah, the combat's actually good. And I actually just did the big fishing minigame cheese before the last island because I noticed the enemy's health was really beefed up for the last island. So it's like they wanted you to go and explore and level up before going back. So I was like, I just fished for an hour and then bought out the inventory of seeds and leveled myself up to 99. Yeah, so now I'm maxed out. But they're still putting up a pretty good fight. It's like they kind of want you to be max level by the time you get to the last island.
They want you to take advantage of the fishing mini game.
But it's just fun, man. Like, this is something I feel about this game. Like, it's so many of the games that are high profile these days are so polished and perfect. Like, I look at God of War, which got reviewed this week, and it's like, it's the most polished AAA game I've ever played. And like, everything works as it's supposed to. It kind of makes me feel like I did when I was a kid playing these games. They have weird exploits that you figure out and then you just use them. And it's just a fun time. That's what this game feels like to me. It feels like a game that could have been on like the GameCube, just way more ambitious because of modern technology. But it's like, yeah, it doesn't feel like a modern cinematic polished AAA game. That's kind of what I wanted from it. Like, I don't want Sonic to be like a 10 out of 10 game. I'm perfectly happy with a 7 out of 10 game that I absolutely love. And so these things aren't negatives for me. I can see that why they would be for other people. And I recognize it's not great game design, but it's just fun. Like, do you have any examples like when you're a kid and you figure out something dumb in a game that works and then you just do that and it's just really memorable?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it as a kid was trying to explore and to at the very least try and find those things. Try and find those weird little things that you can do or ways to either break things or just make weird stuff happen that I enjoyed a lot as a kid. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you don't get a lot of that with very curated. It's not that those games are bad, like these high profile like God of War and God of War Ragnarok. Those things, they're good. They're super well designed. But I think there is something to be said about being able to explore these games and try and find these, because it almost feels like you're blazing your own path in a way. Be like, oh, I figured out, like, obviously someone else is going to find it as well, but it's almost like, the game didn't necessarily intend for me to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. Like, it's fun to figure those things out. Yeah,
definitely. So I really like that. Like, there's a couple times I've done that with some enemies where there's like this boss it's a tower. It's one of the guardian bosses that drops the gear pieces. And it wants you to basically take out each segment of the tower to get to the top. And then that's where you actually deal the damage to kill it. I noticed that we were fighting kind of by a cliffside. So I just cheesed Sonic up the cliff and then jumped and dashed off of it. And the homing lock-on appeared on his head. So I just killed this like 10-story thing without doing anything I was supposed to. I'm like, that's just super cool. That's like a story I have now from this game that, like, I even think about other Sonic games and it's like, those are like a roller coaster, very curated. You don't really have any say in what happens. And so to take Sonic and put him in this world where it's like, no, it's janky, but you can use that to your advantage now and do cool things you couldn't really do in older Sonic games. Usually the jank is just frustrating, but now it's like, I can return the favor. I can get revenge on these guys after years of BS in these Sonic games out of my control. It's like, yeah, I can jank up this cliff and kill this enemy. And it's like, it's part of the reason the open world just works so well, is that, like, it's like they said, yeah, screw it, do whatever you want. And it was a really cool idea that worked.
I do think it depends on how hard it breaks the game. Like, you look at Sonic 06 and those upgrades completely break that game because they just weren't programmed right. And they were supposed to expire at a certain point and they just don't. Like
I forgot about those. Yeah, it's not like that. No,
like
it's
that
still
goes a
feels
little too far, but if you're able
Mhm.
to explore and find these little things that you can do to kind of give yourself a leg up, I think
Yeah.
those can be really good.
Yeah, the Guardian fights, they're really cool. They are honestly maybe the highlights of the game. I never thought I'd say that about a Sonic game. The boss fights are the highlight. They are so cool, and they just all do different things. Like there's one that's flying around the overworld the entire time, and it has this like cape trail going on it. And I look at that, I'm like, that's a path for Sonic to run on, and it's up to you to figure out how to get to a high enough vantage point to then launch yourself and land on that path and start the boss fight. You can do it whenever. It's just running around the world, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go fight this thing now. You land on it, it sees you, it triggers it, it starts firing these shots back down you. You do the bumpers to
Left, right, yeah.
do the quick dodge, and then you catch up to him. You homing attack his head. It forms this giant disc that's now your battlefield where you do your moves, and it's like it's just so cool. And I won't talk about all of them, but there's just like so many different bosses that all feel very different and all use a different element of Sonic's combat set, which is pretty good. And it's like, man, the fighting is actually really fun because it feels like almost a little bit Zelda-like in the way like there's one way to beat this boss, you have to figure out how to do it, and then you pull it off and it feels good. And I was worried that the islands would feature the same bosses, and there's some repeats, but every island has very unique bosses. And yeah, it's just always throwing new stuff at you. It's not like one of these games where you see what it has to offer on the first island and then do it again 3 times. It's like every island is pretty different.
Yeah. I mean, that's good because the combat in Sonic games has
This is the
at
best
its
it's ever
best is something that just kind of happens. Like it's non-intrusive is
Yeah.
usually the best that Sonic combat can get. And it's kind of surprising that they were able to actually kind of nail it here.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's like I'm really shocked at how much I like it, and I thought there would be a lot more of it. I think is why I'm happy with it too. I thought you'd constantly be getting interrupted by enemies, but honestly, I just run past them. Like if I don't want to fight low level enemies anymore, you just sprint by and it doesn't matter. Like there's very few forced combat encounters apart from the bosses, which is why what I think keeps it good because the werehog combat would have been fine if it was used about 80% less than it was, but it's constant. And this is like I said, it's just fast. This game just feels fast. You're platforming, you're solving a light puzzle, you're doing a boss fight, you're fighting some goons, and it all doesn't take that long. And you string it together, and it's like, whoa, an hour just went by, and I did all these different things. Like, Kev, I can't believe how much I like this game. Like we've been talking about for over a half hour now. Like this game is
rolling.
Great. It is just really good if you're a Sonic fan.
Oh man, this is sounding better and better.
Yeah, it is so much fun. Yeah.
A couple other little things I want to get to. We have been going for nearly 40 minutes on this thing.
Mm-hmm. We talk about this game all year. I think it deserves it. It deserves it.
So we're a third of the way through Sonic Forces' runtime. Let's continue on. How's the music? Sonic usually nails the music when everything else falls apart. How is it here?
Yep, it's great. I really like it. Sonic Forces had kind of that like synthy vibe. Frontiers, that was the one thing I really liked about it. I like that soundtrack. This picks it up, but it's a lot like creepier and darker and more melancholy. I love Sonic when it's super dramatic. Like it's cheesy and over the top and ridiculous. I love the stories like that, like the adventure games or even 06 for it's just dripping in angst. And this game has that too. It's returning to that kind of early 2000s vibe. And the music is super techno, but really depressing in a lot of sorts. The boss music is like super electronic, but then after you defeat the boss, it returns to like the simple piano melodies that you've kind of heard in some of the trailers and stuff. You wouldn't think that combo would work, but it does. Like the music's really good. And then the big Titan fight is what they're called at the end of each island, where you get to play a Supersonic. Rumor was true. And I guess that was announced. We talked about that on the show. It plays like almost punk screamo vocal tracks is what they went for this time. And it's epic and it works. And there's a different one for each boss. And it's like, yeah, it's cool. Supersonic, jankiest part of the game, by the way, but that's expected. Those fights are stressful and not very good, but it's okay. They're a spectacle. Like they're fun to watch the cutscenes of Supersonic beating up this giant Shadow of the Colossus sized thing, but the gameplay in them is pretty janky. I didn't talk about the broken part of the combat.
Oh,
Sonic has a counter. He has a counter in this game. It's so funny. You hold L1 and R1, and at the moment of impact, and you take no damage, and then you get a chance to hit triangle and circle and do a counter attack that's super strong. The broken part is you don't have to time it at all. You could hold it 5 seconds before you're hit, and then it hits you, and it's like perfect parry, and then you get to do the counter attack. There is a supersonic boss fight where you're being propelled forward through the air on rails, and there are missiles coming from you at all directions. And you hold L1 and R1, and it's like perfect counter, and then you do have to let go and hold it again, right? It only works once.
Okay, so once the counter ends, you just immediately have to go like let go and put them back on.
It's so broken. And another funny thing is that Sonic freezes in the air when you do this. Like if you do the count, if you hold the counter in the air, Sonic freezes and he's floating there. And so like like sometimes if you're fighting something that a tall boss, you like get way up in the air, you hold L1 R1, Sonic is just suspended in animation in midair, and it will never end until you do the counter. Like, you can just sit there for hours if you wanted to, and it's just like so broken, but it's just funny. And it's there's some bosses that are like take 2 seconds because of the perfect counter strategy.
Like, well, you can't hit me, so here we go.
Yeah, so that is really broken. Yeah.
I could see Sonic going the other way, though, and having this parry be so hard to nail that I think I'd rather have that.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, Like I said, most of the jank plays in your favor. Like, a lot of it plays in your favor this time instead of working against you, and that's what is making this game just so fun to blast through.
How's the story? Obviously, don't get too far into it. Surface level stuff. The game hasn't been out too long, but how is it shaped up?
It's good. I like the writing a lot. I can tell it's from Ian Flynn, the comics writer. The way he characterizes Sonic is very good. Roger Craig Smith is voicing him like a pitch lower than usual. It sounds kind of weird because we're so used to his voice the last decade, but
gone through puberty or something.
Yeah, I think that Sega told him like, this is a more serious game, like change your tone a little bit. I've never really liked his performance as Sonic. I like it here. I think it works more for me than it did, so I'm happy with that. There's some really good conversations between Sonic and Tails that I like that builds the relationship. The references to other Sonic games are super deep. There's been references to Forces, to Lost Worlds, the adventure games. There's everything. They reference everything in this game, like it's all happened, which is very cool. And then the overall plot is like really actually kind of bonkers. And I won't talk about it, but it's like, yeah, it's crazy. Like I think Sonic fans are going to really like the plot. It's cool. Eggman's great. The new character's good. Yeah. There's a huge plot hole that basically it all could have been, everything could have not happened the way it did if one character just told one character one thing, which is annoying. It's like, you should have just told us instead of being cryptic this entire time.
Yeah. I mean, but that happens in other stuff too, where you're like, man, all of this could have been avoided if someone was just like a little bit more open about something.
Yeah, with one conversation.
Something.
Yeah. Yeah, so the story, I like it a lot. It's good.
Speaking of the story and possibly dead Amy, how many of the rumors that we've been talking about have turned out to be true?
Well, yeah, we didn't have time before this show. We're going to have to go back and compile all the ones that we've done this year. Yeah. And then when the game's been out longer too, and we can fully talk about everything. Go back and tell what was true and what wasn't. But dead Amy is pretty much true. She's not dead, but I can see based on how it's presented why it was the rumor came that way. Because that rumor was very accurate in pretty much everything else. But yeah, she's not dead, but you are rescuing her on the first island. And yeah, I can see why you would say she was dead.
I'm looking forward to kind of going back and seeing how those things shaped up, both if they were true or not, and how much of it was true. Because it'll be like, yeah, this is like kind of true. And they pick some things here that kind of make sense. Yeah.
I guess we should wrap up. I got two things to say real quick last. One of them is going to be light spoilers, so if you don't want to know anything, then go away for the next 2 minutes.
All right, I'll be back.
This is ridiculous, Kevin. One of the most bogus things I've ever had to do in a Sonic game. I couldn't believe it when it happened. On the third island, you have to play pinball, and you have 3 balls, and it's like actual. And Sonic's not the pinball. You're playing pinball on this pinball machine. You have 3 balls, and you have to score 5 million points to move on. It is absolutely insane.
How stingy is it with the points?
When you're starting out, you're scoring like 200 per hit, and then there's these red star rings that spawn that boost your combo multiplier, and you can get your combo up to times 256, so then you're doing like 64,000 a hit. But then if you lose your ball, your combo resets to 0, and it's complete luck if you lose your ball or not. Like, because there's just places on the edge they can leave, and it's like, I got lucky, and I got it after like 35 minutes. I could see this taking hours. And it is main story required, no easy mode. The turning down the difficulty doesn't lower the score requirement. It is crazy. I couldn't believe it. But Kev, what followed that, and spoilers over, I'm not going to spoil what comes next, but immediately after that is probably my favorite segment in any 3D Sonic game of all time. Like, what follows is the highest high. What they do is so freaking cool. And I'm not going to say what it is, but it is like, I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. And it's just like the lowest of lows and the highest of highs.
Just the whiplash.
Back to back. Yeah.
The Sonic whiplash of just getting obliterated by something. Is, oh my God, the next thing's incredible.
Yep.
It wouldn't be Sonic without it, though.
Yeah. But that's Frontiers. It is... I think I'm ready to say it's my favorite Sonic game. I like it more than Generations. It is my number one Sonic game, which means it's in my top 10 games of all time, which is true. I absolutely love this game. Everything about it is better than I thought it was going to be. Like, the cyberspace is fun. The open world is just so much fun to blast through. Sonic feels really fast, and there's room for him to move, right? Those are the two main things. The little mini levels that are scattered all over the overworld are super fun and quick, and it's like, time just flies in this game. Like, it just goes. Like, I will save and I'll be like, that was 2 hours. I just sat here for 2 hours and did not get up because I was so locked into this game. Yeah, it is the longest Sonic game, but doesn't feel padded out. Because like, I'm not even close to being done with 100%ing it, but I want to. There's nothing in there like the werehog or some crap that you don't want to do besides the pinball. It is.
Back to the pinball.
It's really, 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 really fun. Yeah. It's janky. It's a little broken. There's a lot of pop-in, but 60 FPS mode never drops on PS5, which is more important to me than stuff popping in. Like, it is rock solid 60 FPS. Looks great. Sounds great. Yeah, it's awesome. Rough around the edges, but I hope they don't abandon this idea. I think the reception has been positive enough that they will stick with this, try it again, because a sequel could be something that is really, really amazing.
Yeah. Now, for Sonic fans, I'm sure that they're either playing it now or planning to get it very soon. For people who aren't big fans of Sonic, is this something that you would
probably not
recommend to them at all? Would you recommend it to them when it's, say $20 or $30?
I think I might hold off and recommend a sequel. Like, if they fix some of the... I love it. I'm a huge Sonic fan. I've dealt with the BS for decades. I'm very used to how Sonic controls, how he platforms, how it all works. And this is everything I wanted as a Sonic fan. From what I'm seeing, the Sonic fans I know love this game. And then I'm seeing other people like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And I'm like, yeah, I think this game is really for Sonic fans. The story is definitely for Sonic fans. I think the gameplay is too. So yeah, if you've never clicked with Sonic before, I don't think that's going to change here. It might be worth a flyer. If it's like on PS Plus or something, yeah, try it out. But I think, yeah, Sonic's never going to be a critically acclaimed 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 game. It's like, I think Sonic Team is, with this, focused on making their fans happy, trying something new, and they frickin' did it. I couldn't be happier. I think you're going to love this game, Kev. I think it's going to be fun when we finally get to play this thing together. Yep. Maybe you should pick it up and play it yourself, because it's really great. It's really fun. Yeah. Yeah, it's not super conducive to our Sonic Club setup of rotating. Per level.
I mean, there's not really levels per se. You could probably have to do like a timer or something.
Yeah,
how we play.
But it's great. There's some jank in there, but I would have been disappointed if there was no jank, right? Like, you want
feel
that
right.
Yeah,
yeah. I think it's better if you get. I look back at Forces, and it's hard because you look back at some of the other Sonic games, like, man, there is so much bogus in here that I would never want to replay that. But Sonic Forces is different in the sense that I don't want to replay it, but there's also no bogus. So you need to try and find this middle ground where it's like, all right, I can get a little nonsense here and there, but it's still fun. And you felt like they were trying something new.
Yeah,
which
it
I think
is
is the
just,
most important thing.
it's so ambitious, man. Like like I said, there's like Shadow of the Colossus in here. There's Breath of the Wild. There's Spider-Man. There's some Horizon, and kind of the story is a lot like what happened here. Like uncovering that is most of the plot. There's some Returnal and some of the monster designs and some of the Portal designs look very much like that game to me. Mario Odyssey, like I said, like yeah, there's just so many influences in this game that all come together to make. There's Tony Hawk too, like just like
He's
fun
in the
movement.
game.
He's not in the game, but it feels a lot like that in a lot of ways. And it just comes together to create something that is like, I never thought open world Sonic would work as well as it does, but it does. And it's like, wow, I can't go back. I can't go back. Like Zelda, I'm like, I could go back if they made another game like Ocarina of Time. But this, I'm like, you need that free movement because it just works so well. And the levels are there too. And it's, yeah, it's the best Sonic's ever been, which I can't believe I'm saying. It is so awesome.
Best since Generations.
Yep. Yeah, that's been firm as my favorite Sonic game since it came out. But unless this falls apart in its final act, which even if it did, I think that it's pretty well cemented itself as my favorite Sonic.
High praise.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out what in a week, next week's show.
Yep,
Be done.
I'll have this done, but I'm gonna 100% this game. The platinum is pretty easy to get. Like you don't have to do that many things, and then there's more to do even beyond that. Like I said, the little memory tokens on the map that go away. That's not a requirement for the platinum. I'm gonna get them all. Like I'm gonna clear the map because I just have that much fun in this world, and I want to squeeze every ounce out of the game that I can.
All right, 50 minutes of Sonic, and it's not going to be over because we'll be talking about it, talking about it next week. Now it's
What do you think, Kev? Is this different than you thought it was going to be from what I've said?
I think it's more so that it sounds like it comes together better than what I was expecting because from what was shown off, I had a lot of concerns about the open world, how that was all going to work, concerns about the cyberspace levels. Are they going to be anything interesting, and how much of the game is it going to be? Is the combat going to be interesting? Because man, combat in Sonic's not usually good. And if it's a game structured like this, there's probably going to be a lot more of it. But it seems like those pieces come together a lot better than I give it credit for. Although it didn't deserve that credit to start because they had not done anything prior to this to give me that confidence. But I mean, yeah, it definitely makes me rethink when I'm going to play it. I mean, I have other stuff that I'm going to be playing, including a game that we're going to talk about in a second that's coming out really soon. But before the game came out, I was just assuming that I was going to play it when we all got together and played this game. But now I'm possibly thinking about playing it before that. I don't know when that'll be, but giving it a shot.
And then we'll all play it together again anyways, whenever that is. As part of Sonic Club. But yeah, the more you like Sonic, the more you'll like this game. Like, I think you'll really like it, Kevin. I do. But I have the highest tolerance for Sonic BS of the three of us. So I wouldn't be surprised if I do like it the most. But I mean, you went through all those games. I think you will play this and you'll be like, wow, this feels better than anything we played in Sonic Club. Like it just is so cool. It's so cool. And I'm obsessed with the enemy designs. They're so freaking cool. Like some of these creatures, they're very Horizon-esque. A lot of them, how they look. Like there's one that looks a lot like a tall neck. Like it just kind of is a tall neck.
All right.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with the world they made and all of it. It's so good. It's the last three games they've made, Lost World, Forces, and now Frontiers, are all so different. And I hope they don't go in a different direction again. This is what I want for the next 10 years. Seriously, like. Yeah.
Hopefully there's enough good feedback from it that they feel confident in going back to it again.
Like I'm seeing nothing but love from Sonic fans. Sonic fans freaking love this game.
But I hope that Sega or Sonic Team does not put too much stock in like, oh man, this thing only got like a 72 or a 73. Like we've got some good pieces in there, but man, we still need to radically change it because that was a thing a little while back where they're delisting games if they have a low enough score. So hopefully they don't put that much stock into that and realize that there's a good framework here.
This one has really good reviews. It has some really, really terrible ones dragging that score down. If you removed like the three most negative reviews that are outliers from the rest, this thing probably be like above a 75, which is like, yeah, that's a good game. 75, that's a good game. Like there's some that gave it like a 2 out of 10. And I'm like, I'm sorry. You don't give something a 2 out of 10 unless it's like absolutely broken. And this isn't. It functions. Like, to me, a 2 out of 10 is like, this is unplayable. Like, you can't finish it. It doesn't run at all, or something like that. And I think that that's a thing that Sonic just will have to deal with forever, is like a franchise that's just popular to dunk on. But no, this game, like I said, I think a 70 is pretty accurate for this game. I just love it. Like, it is a 70 that I love, like it's a 100. Like, I love it, but it has a lot of flaws. Like, I'm not defending it like it has problems, but yeah, there's the proof of concept is there.
Looking forward to whatever comes next too.
Yeah.
Fix the economy.
It's the
they should probably just bring out a patch or something for that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If they brought out a patch to fix Knuckles' infinite jump, they'll probably do something here.
Yeah.
Change things up.
Yeah.
An hour in, let's get to something other than Sonic.
That was fun, man. I was like that was huge after the year build up to this game. That was awesome.
Yeah. So good. And the train doesn't stop here. It's not Sonic, but equally as enthralling.
Yeah.
Sports Story is back. It has been well over a year since we've heard anything.
It was last Christmas.
Last Christmas was basically nothing. The last time we got any actual information was over a year ago with the baby court nonsense. And it's here. It was part of the indie showcase. It is coming out next month, although I was a little bit curious that they didn't specify a day, considering that this December is less than a month away. I'm hoping that it's earlier in the month, but maybe if they didn't put a day on it, that means that they're not sure as of yet. But it's a minute trailer. They show off a bunch of the different sports that's in here. They show off a bunch of different areas and worlds. I feel like Golf Story, it did a lot with what it had, but it was very contained in this area, and they did a lot with it, but it all meshed together well here in Golf Story. But I feel like with Sports Story, they're trying to craft very, very different worlds from each other. And I think you could see that a lot in this trailer. Man, I'm excited. And this was only a minute. This was only a minute of the game.
Yeah, I don't want to see any more. Like, that was something so cool about Golf Story, is that I was just like, oh, there's very few games on Switch. I like video game golf. This game looks quirky. I've heard the writing is funny. I buy it, and you just get taken on. You never know what's going to come next, like the murder mystery in the mansion. Like, what game even is this right now? And this looks to have that, but just cranked up, like you said. I'm good, though. This trailer looked amazing. I think the main concern here is, are the other sports going to be fun to play? That is because the golf is very, very good in Golf Story, and the game would not work if the golf wasn't as good as it is. So when you're talking 10 sports in this thing, like, I hope they're fun to play.
I also hope that there's enough depth within them. Some of them I'm fine if it's like a 1 or 2 off. Like maybe like the BMX, for example. Maybe that's something that you only do once or twice, and it's like, oh, that was like a fun little diversion. But I'm hoping that that's not how like all of them are. Like if the golf is still the main thing, and then everything else is kind of just like not necessarily throwaway, but you play it once or twice, you figure out how it works, and then it's kind of done.
I think tennis is going to be deeper. Tennis, because it's like Golf Story is like a Mario Golf RPG made in the modern day, and the tennis was the counterpart of those games back in the day. So I could see the tennis being one of the deeper ones.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of stuff in here. So it feels like they're highlighting. Obviously, golf is there. You've got tennis, and soccer was kind of the one that they paired into that like original bit that they were talking about, and then they kind of went into the other sports, which makes me think that those are the ones that get the most time, and then these other ones are kind of just maybe things that you do one off in the worlds. Maybe like
the frisbee golf. Yeah, or the mini golf. Yeah. Sorry, disc golf. They hated it in that game when you called it frisbee golf. Yeah. It looks awesome. I was already like, man, Sonic's locking up my game of the year. It is so good. And then they announced Sports Stories this year, and I'm like, well, hold the phone. This is a huge finish to the year. Yeah, I can't wait for this game. It is going to be in that indie direct. they said, and you won't have to wait long. And I was like, they can't drop it today. I'm playing Sonic. They can't drop this today. And then I was like, okay. So I was actually okay that it's not till December instead of it's out now, because there's too much going on right now. But it looks really, really, really good. I'm excited to hang out at the mall.
Yeah. What was your first thought when you saw it?
I just couldn't believe it. I was just in absolute disbelief that it was happening. Yeah, it was just like, holy crap, because they don't usually do this. They usually say our next is our last for the day, but they were like, that's it. Just kidding is what they did this time, because it went from like, oh my god, I sat here and I was like, god, no sports story, and then it was like 4, and I was like, it's happening. It's happening. I wish it was having a physical release on day one, because I know it will get one eventually, and I'll double dip on this game
because mega fans.
Yeah, I can't wait though. I love the first one so much. Zach was up here last week, and we played a couple courses in the multiplayer. We just do every time he's here. I hope it has multiplayer also. I hope it has the 2-player competitive in its various sports like Off Story did.
Yeah,
maybe online play so we could play together.
That'd be cool. Yeah. I was most happy that it's coming out soon. I was kind of prepping myself as I was watching that for it to, like, when it first came out, like, oh, okay, like, am I gonna have to wait again? Because that's been this entire game, is just waiting. They announced it, we waited a while, they're gonna have to delay it, but here's some more stuff. Waited a while again, waited a long while,
really a long time.
Prepared to continue to wait, and to know that it's coming out within a month or so is so exciting.
Yeah, everything's getting dropped when this comes out. It's the primary game. The
day
second
one
it comes out.
Day one. Sorry, Xenoblade. Sports Story is scooch aside. Yeah. Oh, we're not going to be able to talk about that anymore. Like, where's Sports Story?
No, it's going to be here. I know. I have this list of like my most anticipated games, and like the top 2. Well, the top 3 for a long time have been Zelda, Sonic, and Sports Story. And it's like, whoa, 2 of those are about to leave. And then it's only like 6 months till the next one does too. Like, they're all finally coming out. These games we've known about for so long are finally coming out. Yeah, it's awesome.
Not much longer to wait.
So far, living up to the hype. And I'm sure Sports Story is going to be good. I'm sure it's going to be good.
It'll at least be good.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Like, Frontiers was a huge question mark, and then the biggest surprise
use them to fill me.
Sports Story. I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a great game.
Yeah. Want to talk about any other announcements from this indie showcase that stood out to you? What were some of the other ones? Obviously, besides Sports Story, that was the big one, of course. But what else here kind of piqued your interest?
There's a lot of cool stuff. I thought that the Space for the Unbound looked cool. It's coming out on January 19th.
Amy's journal and keep her precious memories alive.
And it's like a coming-of-age romance, but also like alien supernatural threat. Gave me strong Earthbound vibes. 90s, aliens. That just kind of automatically reminds me of that. Cool pixel art, side-scrolling, talk to people in the town. Looks like a cool game. That one stood out to me a lot. And then Pepper Grinder, Devolver's publishing this one. Super cool pixel art. You like drill through the ground to fight enemies. I thought it was going to be like a roguelite or something or procedurally generated when they talk about this, but it's a world that you unlock more of and progress through.
Way more excited to play it.
Yeah, that game looked really cool. Those were my highlight. And then Inscription. That is a game people have been telling me to play for a long time. It came out on PlayStation earlier this year. It was a PC indie darling, I think, last year, and it's coming to Switch also. Apparently, that's a game like the less you know about it, the better. It looks really cool. That was in the sizzle reel at the end. But
okay, yeah.
Those are
WrestleQuest was also in the sizzle reel at the end, which I kept my eye on. That looks really interesting. Some other ones for me. Dordogne looks really interesting. At the very least, its art style looks absolutely gorgeous. With these types of games, it depends on if it hits you in the right way, because some of them don't have as much in the way of gameplay. But if that story hits to go along with this art style that goes along with it, I think that could be something pretty special.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
That one stood out. Coffee Talk episode 2. I feel like I need to get around to playing episode 1. I really enjoy Valhalla. So it's a very similar style of game. Instead of brewing the drinks in a bar, you're brewing coffee as a barista. So, and it's set in Seattle. So, that's cool.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. The first one was, and this one is as well. And then what? Aka?
Aka?
Where
you're a Tanuki? That one was really cute. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one's just a really cute little art style. It's got some of the stuff that I enjoy. It's got like little farming elements. I think that the world looks like it'd be really fun to explore. Just a really cute area to go around in. That one stood out. That one's cute. Yeah,
it was a good event.
A lot of different games, which I appreciate. And Sports Story, I think. Sports Story's the biggest thing. Yeah. The big weight off of my shoulders knowing that thing's finally got a release window.
It doesn't feel real. It started to feel mythical after all this time. It didn't feel real. Yeah.
When do you think we're going to get a date? Like an actual date, not just December?
I don't know. They didn't even tweet about it. They just retweeted Nintendo's tweet.
Maybe they'll do another Merry Christmas tweet. Merry Christmas, the game's out. Work is not ongoing. It's over.
Work is done. Yeah. I would play that on Christmas Day if it dropped.
That'd be a good present.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
I can't wait. That game looks so awesome.
So satisfying. I'm so
it's not awesome.
No, so let's get into our last bit of news. This came out right after we recorded last week's show. We had to record a little bit early, so we were not able to talk about it. PSVR 2, we finally got details on when this thing's coming out. It's coming out in February 23rd of next year. We got the price, $550 base.
Yep. That's terrible. That is absolutely terrible and doesn't even come with a game, and your old games aren't backwards compatible. And it's sealed. I will never pick one of these up. And I listened to a podcast about this, and it brought up some really good ideas about like this headset's stuck in the middle. It is not the high end, like the new Meta Quest Pro that's coming out. That's like $1,100. It's like the top of the line, hardcore tech enthusiasts with money to burn will buy. And it's not the Meta Quest 2, which costs $300 and is a self-contained unit that really appeals to the casual market. And it's like, who is this for? Like, wow, who is this for? And then the launch lineup isn't even that compelling outside of, I guess, Horizon. We'll see how long of an experience or good that really even is. But costing more than the console, or I guess in some territories the same now after the PS5 price hike, it's like, you just cannot justify that. Oh gosh, it's I couldn't believe it when I saw the price. I was like, there's no way.
And considering the situation of the world right now and the economy, take for example Japan, that's the equivalent of $750.
Oh boy. For a add-on
is crazy
peripheral piece of hardware. It's insane.
And I mean the concern there is that there's not enough people buying in for them to go hard enough with these games. I mean, they have this lineup and they're trying to pump out titles for it, but say if it doesn't attach very well,
it's not gonna.
Either they radically rethink how they do this and try and get an entry level for people to get in, or abandon it, at least in terms of new games. This thing is gonna flop hard. They played their cards too early with this. I feel like they announced it too early and then we're like, shoot, we don't want to put this thing out now. And now here it is. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I'm not picking one up.
I will probably never pick one up, which is a shame because I really liked the original PSVR. It was a lot of fun. Never got my cable.
So great. Yeah, and then it's like I want them to make games for it to give people a reason to buy it, but at the same time, even looking back at PSVR, the original, and seeing the showcases for the games, and then there's just a subset of games that I'm just not going to play. Like they come on screen, and I can immediately check out. Because I'm not going to buy them because I don't have a PlayStation VR. And that's another issue when you kind of segment your development into these two different things, where one library of games, a majority of the audience will have absolutely either no interest or no attachment to because they don't have the thing to be able to play this.
And it's like you lose either way because you could just say, okay, well, then just block out PSVR State of Plays as their own thing, but then you're not going to get anyone new to adopt when they're not seeing something that's cool. And yeah, it's bad. 550 is insane. It is. I can't get over it. I can't get over that number. And it's honestly, for me, really, really disappointing because I'm sure there's going to be an Astrobot VR sequel. It's like, I'm just not going to play it because I'm not going to pay this much money for this headset. It's like maybe in a decade when you can find it cheap somewhere. But it's like, or it's going to be super niche and never be cheap. And like, this is going to be a console that in 10 years is like, you got it like $1,200 to buy on eBay because no one ever bought one. That could happen to this thing.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Not great.
No.
Not great. Want to wrap up with quick what we've been playing?
Yeah, I haven't talked at all about what I've been playing this week on this episode.
Yeah, nothing at all.
Yeah. I just been before Sonic, I played Super Mario Odyssey. I'll talk about this more next week since I've already taken up so much time, but I'm working to 100% that game. After we talked about it for the 5-year anniversary, I'm going back. I'm having an amazing time with it, actually, because the moons left are very hard to find. So I'm scanning Amiibo, and then it marks on the map where they are. And then you go and you solve the puzzle it takes, and it's like, this is a nice way to clean it up. So if you have some Amiibo lying around, that's a great way to finish Super Mario Odyssey.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't have any. I have one Amiibo, so
Joker.
I guess I have two. I have Hero in Japan, and then I got Joker in America.
Cool. I was like, good. You had to get both of those guys. Those are your games. Yeah,
I did. As for me, just more Xenoblade. The story has taken some interesting turns. Things have happened that have thrown me for a bit of a loop, which is really good. I'm excited to see where it keeps on going from here.
Yeah.
I have been specifically not upgrading myself at the rest points so that my level is low enough so that I can make sure that my other characters are acquiring these classes after learning about that little feature that is not talked about whatsoever in the game.
Yeah. Did we talk about that on our episode that we lost? I don't know if we were talking about that on our
we talked about that last week.
Okay.
I was not aware of it on the episode that we lost.
Okay.
Yeah. Still not a fan of that. I'm really not a fan that they didn't tell me. Like, I'm not a fan of the feature in and of itself. Like, I already think it's not a great feature. I think the way they should have done it was just severely limit the amount that you could get. Like, say if you're 5 or more levels, you only get like 1. Like, it is very slow. But the fact that it completely locks you off from getting these at all is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's really lame. Or like do some sort of thing where it's like the game should be smart enough to know what missions you've completed and things like that. So it's like you can't just go back to the first area and fight level 3 runts and get the classes. But it's like if you're doing the active story quest, you should be getting this regardless of level. Like if you are doing the quest that you're supposed to be doing or doing a hero quest or something like that, it should be smart enough to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not think you're poaching easy things. Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah, so I have like, I think 4 or 5. I could upgrade myself like 4 or 5 levels at the rest points, but I just don't because.
So before you go into the final boss, you could just like, it's going to be so satisfying when you hit plus and it's just like a 7 level jump for everybody.
Yeah.
I ran into an issue where based on classes, where I really wanted to try out a class that I had just inherited from a hero I recruited, but the way it all shook out, I couldn't make it work because I didn't have enough classes for the other characters that were of the role types I needed, because I do 2, 2, and 2 for attacker, healer, defender, that weren't already leveled up at 10 for the character I wanted to use this attack role, because there weren't enough people to be defenders, so they had to be a defender. And I'm like, well, I'm screwed because I'm over leveled, so no one's ever going to unlock these new classes. So I'm just Did
you not put the hero in as the 7th member to?
I did, but they're not going to unlock it because I'm fighting things that are too low of a level, so it doesn't matter.
You just got to go find those encounters. Like, I have found a couple. What I think some of them are hero quests, and I was like level 37 or 38 at the time, and these ones are like 39 or 40. I'm like, I just got to do these.
I
have to do these to unlock these classes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that feature's not great, but everything else I am really enjoying. I'm really enjoying how the world is shaken out with the story. I enjoy the combat a lot. The new additions, of course. The characters are getting their own times to shine in the story, which I really appreciate.
Cool.
It's good. And I'm probably going to be playing it until Sports Story comes out. And then that'll be that.
I've been captured by Sonic. Falling behind on Xenoblade.
You going to be able to get back to that?
I'm worried, man, because I'm looking at the calendar and I'm like, I'm 100%ing Sonic. I'll probably play this game for like 40 hours, like the way it's going. But that's going to go. I'm already 20 hours in. And then it's going to be Pokemon next weekend. And then it's going to, December has a ton of stuff I want to play. Now Sports Story's on there too, along with Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. And then Fire Emblem is 2 months away. That game comes out in January. And that's a day one for me. I love that series. That is a day one for me. And then it's like, oh gosh, okay. So from when I beat Fire Emblem in early February to May, when Zelda comes out, I will have to beat Xenoblade.
Whoa. And there's another, what? 60, 70 hours in there at least.
Yeah. So it'll happen. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Sonic is a special case. Sonic, I won't. I love that game so much. I really love Xenoblade, so I won't abandon it. There's just a lot to play. And then I got wrapped up in Odyssey also, because it was just like I didn't have much time to play games the last week, and I was like, Odyssey's great to play for like 20-minute bursts. Xenoblade is not great to play for like 20-minute bursts.
No, yeah, you need to sit down for at least like an hour.
I say like an hour. If I don't have an hour, I'm not booting that up.
Yeah, that's all I've been playing. I think it's going to be same story for me until Sports Story. But we're going to be talking about Sonic and then Pokemon.
Yeah,
Pokemon soon.
Yeah, man.
These things just don't stop.
No, they don't. You get attached to too many franchises, and then it's like,
and then you feel obligated.
Something. I have not put as much time into Splatoon as I wanted to, honestly. Like, I did not beat the single player yet. I have not finished the battle pass that ends in like 2.5 weeks. Yeah, it's like, gosh, there's a Splatfest this weekend, the Pokemon one. Yeah,
you gotta find time for that.
Too much going on. And then I do a lot that's not playing games. And it's like,
really? Your life is not just playing games.
That's is not.
24 hours a day.
No, contrary to what it might sound like, it is very much not. I've been doing a lot of non-game things lately. And it's like, yeah, I enjoy that, obviously. Like, I'm very grateful we're in this world no longer as restricted by the pandemic as we were for the last 1.5 years prior to this. And it's like, yeah, I'm enjoying that. But it's like, I don't get to play games nearly as much as I did back then. Yeah, when I was tearing through things. I beat 50 games in 2020.
What a
time. Not even close.
Have 50 games.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever going to be topped.
No, I don't either. It was nuts.
Perfect timing of everything for that to come together.
Yeah.
But there'll be a lot to talk about.
Yes, there will be. I'm excited for Pokemon. I think that game is looking good. I think it's shaping up pretty well. I see the Pokemon designs I like, the trailers I'm liking. There's still a lot of questions, but I'm in a positive mood right now after Sonic really exceeded my expectations. So maybe
pleasantly
Pokemon
surprised.
Too. Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for us on this week's episode of Ode to Games. We're here on Thursdays or Fridays, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use. We're on YouTube at Ode to Games, so you can check out the video version of the podcast there. We're on Twitter at Ode to Games. You can send an email to odegamescast@gmail.com. For Logan, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.